Hello and welcome. If you're in a leadership role, you know that AI is pretty much the topic of every conversation right now. But let's get past the hype. How do you actually manage it? Well, today we're going to break down a really practical roadmap for AI governance. Think of this as an overview of how to develop an AI governance program for leadership brought to you by Virtualization Options LLC. It's designed to be a starting point for that crucial training conversation. And because every organization is unique, they work with companies to develop custom training that addresses your specific needs, your risk exposure, and of course, your productivity goals.
All right, just a quick but important note before we really dive in. Every single organization is different, right? So what we're covering today is a general framework, a starting point. The real magic, the real value, happens when this kind of approach is tailored specifically to your company's culture, your risks, and your unique goals.
And this slide just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? We all see this incredible, game-changing potential with AI. I mean, it can revolutionize how we work, create new value, and really push us ahead of the competition. But, and it's a big but, with all that power comes some pretty significant and often totally overlooked risk. So the question is, how do we get all of that upside without the catastrophic downside?
You know, without a solid plan, the consequences can be, well, they can be severe. And we're not talking about some abstract, far-off problems here. We're talking about very real, very painful financial hits from regulatory penalties, lasting damage to your brand from biased outcomes, and these gaping security holes that are just waiting to be exploited. But ultimately, it all boils down to one thing: losing the trust of your customers and stakeholders. And that is something that is incredibly hard to win back. But here's the crucial flip side, and this chart just shows it perfectly. AI governance isn't just about playing defense and avoiding problems. It's your launchpad. It is not a cost center. It is a massive value driver. Mature programs don't just reduce risk, they lead to huge cost savings. In fact, preventing just one major incident can often pay for the entire program. And look at that last bar. It actually helps you deploy AI faster. It's all about moving forward, but with confidence.
So how do we build that confidence? How do we navigate this incredibly complex new world without grinding to a halt? Well, it all starts with a clear plan. A roadmap for AI governance that acts as your guide through all the complexity.
So what is AI governance, really? At its heart, it's basically the set of rules for the road. It's the structure, the policies, the processes, the controls that lets you manage all the known risks of AI while you unlock its incredible value. It's all about being able to innovate responsibly and at speed.
And this right here, this is our map for the journey ahead. The entire roadmap is broken down into 10 key steps or chapters. In this explainer, we're going to do a quick flyover of each and every one to give you the complete picture of how you can build a governance program from the ground up. This will set the stage perfectly for a series of deeper explainers to come.
Now, the journey is broken into two main parts. These first 5 steps are all about laying a rock-solid foundation. And trust me, if you get these right, everything that follows becomes so much easier. We kick things off with Chapter 1, the why. This is where you define the clear, undeniable business case for governance inside your organization. It's also where you establish the core principles that are going to guide every single decision, those non-negotiable principles like accountability, transparency, and fairness.
Next up, in Chapter 2, we answer the question, who? See, AI governance isn't just an IT problem you can solve in a back room somewhere. This is about building a truly cross-functional team with leaders from all across the business. We're talking everyone from your CEO and CIO to legal and risk, and giving everybody really clear roles and responsibilities.
Chapter 3 is where we start to get really practical about risk. The key here is to create a classification system for all of your AI projects, ranking them on a spectrum from, say, minimal risk all the way up to unacceptable. This simple step lets you focus your energy, your time, and your resources right where they're needed most.
Okay, so once you've identified your risks, Chapter 4 is all about writing the rules of the road. This is where you develop your official policies. Everything from high-level ethical guidelines down to a very practical acceptable use policy for employees who are using public generative AI tools like ChatGPT.
And finally, in this foundation stage, Chapter 5 is all about giving those policies some real teeth. I mean, a rule book is pretty useless if you can't enforce it, right? This is where you implement the technical safeguards and the monitoring systems that turn your policies into automated, enforceable actions. Okay, so with that solid foundation in place, the second half of our roadmap is all about putting it into practice, turning that framework into a real day-to-day operation that lives and breathes inside your organization.
Chapter 6 gets into the nuts and bolts, the practical workflows that make governance run smoothly. This means creating standard processes for how new AI projects get proposed and approved, how they're managed over time, and, this is a big one, having a clear incident response plan for what you're going to do when something inevitably goes wrong. In Chapter 7, we shift our focus to people. A governance program only works if everyone understands the part they play. The goal here is to build AI literacy across the entire company with training that's actually tailored to different groups. What your executives need to know is completely different from what your engineers or your general staff need to understand.
So you've built this whole system, but how do you know if it's actually working? That's what Chapter 8 is all about, oversight. This is where you create the mechanisms to check your own work, through regular audits, tracking key performance metrics, and making sure you're staying compliant with both your own rules and external regulations.
And here's a key takeaway. Governance is never done. The world of AI is just moving at lightning speed. So Chapter 9 is all about creating feedback loops, learning from incidents, and making sure your governance program evolves and improves over time. It absolutely has to be a living system.
And finally, Chapter 10 puts it all on a timeline. As this chart shows, you map out a phased 24-month rollout. By breaking the entire implementation down into these manageable stages, from foundation and expansion all the way to maturation and optimization, it makes this huge undertaking feel concrete and, most importantly, totally achievable.
So, when you put it all together, what does this all add up to? Well, this entire journey is really about a fundamental shift in how you view AI. It's about transforming it from a potential liability that keeps you up at night into your single most powerful strategic advantage.
And when you look at it this way, the choice for any leader is pretty stark. On one side, you've got ungoverned AI, a path that just leads to risk, fines, and damage. On the other side, you have governed AI, a path that builds trust, speeds up innovation, and creates a real, defensible competitive edge.
And this really is the question that matters most. Your competitors? They're already building their AI programs on strong governance foundations so they can move faster and safer. The only real question left for you and your leadership team is, are you willing to risk being left behind?
And that wraps up our high-level look at the AI governance roadmap. So just to recap, this has been an overview by Virtualization Options LLC to provide a starting point for a training conversation. Because every organization is unique, the real key is developing custom, organization-specific training to address your specific needs, your risk exposure, and your productivity goals. For more information, you can always reach out to Bob Slovic using the contact details you see on your screen. Thanks so much for joining us.